Hello, everybody. I know what you're probably wondering. Kenny, where did you get those amazing shoes? Well, I'm not wearing any shoes. First of all, guys, I want to say what a wild ride it's been. Oh my god. I have been answering comments furiously for the last couple days, and I'm still behind. I literally have like 3,000 message requests, so if I didn't get your message, I'm sorry. I want to answer your questions. I want to, I want to tell you guys. I want to answer questions. I'm also going to leave it up to you guys to have a little bit of a Q&A session. The first hour of my stream is generally like a little bit of a hangout, Q&A, answer questions, etc., etc. And then we begin testing. I really appreciate it. How did you learn about developing AI? Salty, great question. For those of you who are new here, EEVEE wasn't actually developed early on as an AI. Actually, she was actually developed as a home automation system. When I first started, it was for my neighbor, and she couldn't open the door by herself. So and she's in a wheelchair. So what had happened was I literally just made an RFID chip, a little scanner at the front door, and used like smart locks to have it open and unlock the door. I went to a junkyard and I picked up an automatic door hinge that they use in hospitals for like $25, installed it in her home. And it just kind of progressed from there. It kind of progressed into like having a camera system for security, having like extra things that detects a person with infrared. It turns on the lights for her. It started with home automation. And then I realized that she needed more. She needed more specialized equipment in case things happened. So I started looking into like things like OpenCV. I started looking into things like hand gesture recognition, facial recognition, basic AI systems where it's just basically machine learning. And so I implemented that into her house, and that's how it all started. It began with a simple idea to help someone, and then it evolved, and then it became more and more advanced. Like now we have like waveform analysis, we have things like sound detection, we have sound cues, we have feedback, because people wanted feedback, they wanted to talk, they wanted to be like, I'm okay, and she's like, yeah, okay, you're okay. Like we had feedback, and then we had to add profiles because people were like, I have multiple people in my house, I have dogs running around, I have kids. So we built profiles, and then all these little things started building up over time to the system that you guys now know today, where EEVEE can detect things like who you are, what you're doing, your behavior, things like what's normal, if you're missing medication, if you forgot your keys somewhere. They're all parts of the same system that just been growing from very humble beginnings. People think of AI systems as like, oh, getting straight into making like an AI that's sentient. It's not. It's really, really not. It's really more basic than that. It's really just starting with building solutions for people in need of help, building solutions for certain problems. So EEVEE is actually a 3-part system. When I originally designed EEVEE, she wasn't just the EEVEE that you know today. Originally, I made her as EAVIE, or the EEVEE system. The acronym was a little complex and long at the time because I wanted it to be cool, but I completely forgot what it was. Since then, EEVEE is now a 3-part system. So there's actually 3 separate AI systems that account for the entire EEVEE system. So the EEVEE that you guys know and hear and respond to is actually the one who interacts with the human world. She's the one who like talks, accepts feedback, and processes things like dialogue. All those things that have any sort of interface with a human being, she's the one that you see. And then there's Ava in the middle. Ava is actually just a permission system. So Ava watches EEVEE and checks for permissions. So she checks for things like who's speaking, the person in the room, who has permissions for whatever protocols, who has permissions to make changes. Like if this is EMS, or if this is allowed, if this is in the rule set. She's the one who checks EEVEE. And then there's Ivy at the end. Ivy is the one who executes everything. So everything from like sending out text messages, calling EMS, pinging people, activating any of the robots that you hear on the stream and you see on the stream. Ivy is the one who actually executes them all. So it's actually a 3-part system that is broken up. It's sort of my rudimentary way of ensuring that not one system is always in control of everything, if that makes sense. I want to make this really clear. AI is not like a crazy world that we live in. AI is literally in everything we do. So it's like, when I say AI systems, it can be very broad. And it can be simple as well. And a lot of these systems are very simple. They just need to be executed properly. How does EEVEE scan your room? Is it scanned by cam or by 360? Right now, EEVEE is scanning my room using the main camera here But to show you guys, today, in every single test scenario, these are the type of cameras that EEVEE uses. See these little guys here? These are the tiny cameras that EEVEE uses, sends out that data with a wireless network, through Wi-Fi, if you will, to a server, and then that server processes things and pings it back to whatever it needs to go to. So in this case, me. This is the cameras that she uses currently. So the only issue I have with those right now is they don't have any built-in microphones. So I'm actually thinking of switching to like an action cam, like a GoPro system that has a built-in microphone already. Because right now I have an external microphone and a camera. So it's a bit of a complex system, but a GoPro system might be the answer. Something that's self-contained, super cheap to build. So in a normal household, I would want her to have at least like 2 or 3. And they're really easy to set up too. Like they literally just get to your Wi-Fi network. It automatically sets it up by itself. That's the goal. Because you would want this to be in someone's house where they can just walk in and be like, hey, I want to buy this off the shelf. I want to take this to my mom's place. Boom, 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 set it up and forget it. That's the idea, right? That you want this to be as simple as possible. I work with a lot of elderly people who just don't know technology. And the one thing I've learned is that you have to sort of do a lot of things for them without them knowing. And it's not to say that they're not capable. Many of them won't remember things or they won't do things properly. So you kind of have to make it like a foolproof system for everyone to just like pick and pull, install, and it sets it up by itself. Hopefully. That's the goal anyways. Zucker, then EEVEE is finished. Does she get international or just a few states first? My hope, Zucker, is that EEVEE goes international. I'm trying to keep costs as low as possible. I'm trying to keep costs in the realm of possibility so that it's not the hyper rich and the hyper famous that get access to this, right? This is a system for everyone. And I think everyone should have access to it. And that's the goal. The goal is to have this accessible to everyone because I don't believe that only the people with money should have access to something that might save someone's life. It's like a vaccine. I think everyone should have access to it. I would want to make enough living to survive, to eat, to have a home, and to pay my employees kind of deal. Like that's all I really need in life. Is EEVEE open source? Or if not, will she ever be open source? She's not currently open source. Now, the reason for that is because A, privacy concerns, because we're dealing with people here. C, vulnerability concerns, because I am not a security expert, and until I can hire a security expert, I just don't trust the internet. And C, I think when we're dealing with things like this, I want to be in control of the type of information, the type of data, the type of learning that happens here, so that I'm gonna be honest with you guys, there are so many trolls out there that I worry that something's going to be taught wrong or something's going to be done wrong. And I'll be the first to say, if someone takes EEVEE, does something to her, and then she gets implemented into a house, for example, into a home, into someone's life, and it fails because of something they did, not only does that hurt the brand, but it hurts the trust. You know, it hurts someone's belief in the system, because when I want people to buy this, I want people to have this in their house, and I want them to have a certain level of confidence in the system. I want them to have a little bit of that peace of mind, that peace of life. It literally takes 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes out of my control that could end the entire project. In my mind, that's how I see it, right? I can only imagine on the news someone being like, oh, I bought this EEVEE system and then I installed it and then my mom died. Do you not like it? That to me is scary. It really is. And the thought of having somebody else try to implement a system and maybe not do it the right way, or maybe not account for certain things, or maybe not think about certain perspectives, it terrifies me. It terrifies me. It really does. So that's why we're trying to keep everything kind of close together until we've kind of built a system that I can A, trust, B, rely on, and C, implement for a lot of people. Because right now it's kind of buggy. There's still a lot to do, yeah. For those of you who are new here, I want to make one thing super clear. You're all test subjects now. I'm sorry, but it's too late now. You're all in this now. EEVEE actually learns a lot of her language abilities from what you guys say here in chat. And for all of you who are new here, just know that as soon as you entered chat, she created a profile for you. And that profile for you includes things like your name, things you've mentioned, things you've talked about, the frequency in which things you talk about. If you mention your favorite color a lot, if you mention things like I love motorcycles. If you mention things like ask a lot of questions, you know, proper grammar, pronunciation, and things like that, they're all remembered. Just so you guys know. Full disclaimer for you guys. And you'll notice that her voice sort of starts to change. It starts to articulate in a specific way. And it's really because half of you guys, half of me. So there's a fun dynamic there for you guys. Can EEVEE learn different languages? As a French viewer, I would love to see EEVEE in other languages. Okay, great question. We did multiple languages before. We had some issues, but what had happened, and I have yet to figure out, is how to have her feedback effectively in different languages. One of the things that I ran into with multiple languages, and maybe you guys can help me brainstorm some ideas, is that there's an efficiency model. There's an efficiency quota that has to be reached for responses, because responses need to be short, concise, and to the point. If we allow her to start just writing paragraphs to explain herself, every response is going to be a paragraph long. That's part and part with, you know, like emergency response. You got to be quite short formed. The thing is, when you're dealing with multiple languages, we had a bug. It was a giant error. It sounded like a demon. I'll post a video on it. EEVEE started creating her own language. So what had happened was we were trying to have her feedback in multiple languages. The problem was different languages have different characters, literal entire ideas and sentences condensed into a single character. And that's way more efficient than, say, English. So what EEVEE had done was she started Mod Podging her own language to be as efficient as possible to try to convey her message in as many languages as possible. You ever see the Terminator? Yeah. Half of the chat was ready to bolt. How does EEVEE know whether you're talking to chat or EEVEE? Okay. So EEVEE actually has two things that she does for when she's checking whether I'm talking to her or talking to chat. One is that she has her name, right? And when I'm talking to her, I try to make my voice into command states. And what that means is that I have like a certain way I speak to her. It's not perfect. It still needs work, but there's a certain way I speak to her. You know, there's a certain way that I talk to her. So, for example, if I were to say things like, EEVEE, you there?
For you, engineer. Always.
And if I say something like, hey, EEVEE, you there? Yeah. EEVEE, you there?
What can I do for you, sir?
So there's a certain way that I talk that activates her, right? So I'm still working on like intent, like vocal intent. I haven't really perfected it yet, but vocal intent is another way to do it too. Whew. All right, guys. Well, my body's sore. I'm going to go take a cold shower. But guys, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you guys so much for all the great ideas. But yeah, if you have any more ideas, any more questions, feel free to join my Discord. Feel free to message me there. I'm literally there all the time. For everyone who's new, welcome to the community. Welcome to the family. I hope to see you guys again. And yeah, for everyone who's lurking, thank you guys so much for lurking. I appreciate that. And I will see you nerds next time. I can't believe we ordered a gangbang.